Yeah, I know. It's like a little exercise.
You want to switch to bass? Can you some hair?
I might. I get there first. I hate it.
Let's see if technology betrays me again. I think I've got it down. When I was making my video, it didn't turn a page. No! It was really nice.
Christus, Factus est
Sorry, can I start that? Let me start right there.
There's one thing you're going to watch on the video, and then I'm just going to let you go ahead, but I'm going to forget about it. I've seen this a few times. I'm not quite sure how to model it, but there's something about what you're doing with your right and left hand that makes me think you're like carrying a football downfield. Like this way. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about if you've seen it on the video, but there's something about where your hand is over to the right and where your hand is on the left that I get focused here instead of here.
Okay.
And that's just something to sort of look at. I have seen disagreement about this. I have seen some people say if you're going to conduct with one hand, it should be right in the center of your body, so that it's focused and centered. And I've seen other people say even if you're going to conduct with one hand, it should be out here, because it should look like again, there's this mirror neuron thing. We imagine that there's another hand here and that this is going to look more centered. My experience has been that it looks quite different on different bodies. But for you, I'm thinking that like for one hand, think about being a little more centered, because you create this like extra space here, which isn't where I think we want to be looking.
Okay.
So you can start at the beginning if you want, or on page 2.
Yeah, no, I just want to start right where we were. So at 21. Do you need the chord?
No, we're good.
Okay. You're finding yourself. Sorry.
Thoughts for Simon? Cool, I guess everyone's staring at their scores and trying to figure out how to sing. So I have comments. Thanks for remembering the tenors this next time through. The next transition that is tricky for you, and I think for Chase too, I wasn't paying enough attention. Measure 43. You're cueing the basses there, but you're cueing them at the same pianissimo that everybody is in there before, maybe a little bit louder. And I think Bruckner wants quite a change there. Cool, like that suddenly we're like back up, and then the tenors have an accent on their entrance, and so do the sopranos. So that's a place where I think things need to change a little bit more.
Okay.
Second thing, I saw a few of you do this on your tapes, so I'm assuming there's a good recording out there somewhere that does this. That everybody picked up the tempo at 21, which I like and is fairly standard, and I've heard a lot before, but then suddenly the pick up to 33 is subito back to the original tempo. Is that something several of you can be your own, or that you heard on a recording you liked?
You're talking about, sorry, did you say pick up to 33?
Yeah, the pick up to 33. There were several of you, and you just did it right now. You like returned to the slow tempo like right there.
Yes, that is, I wrote in slower right there. I kind of came to that on my own, and then heard some recordings that confirmed.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there. I find that transition jarring somehow, and it's because of how I think this piece flows in terms of form. You can all have a seat for a minute, but this is something that some of you got last year in score study, the rest of you will get next year in my score study class. But this is something where I think a lot of people who study classical and romantic music over time have missed a huge thing. And Carlos even talked about it too, that Bruckner is all in periods, he said, that it's all antecedent consequent and all that kind of stuff, where you have one phrase, and then you have a second phrase, and they're related to each other. They're either parallel, right, or they're antecedent consequent. And that is what I learned in school too, that music consists of phrases, phrases can be added together into periods, and then eventually periods can be turned into like sonatas or expositions or developments. Or is this feeling like some theory class somewhere? I believe, and I got this from a number of people, that most forms are actually in 3 parts and not in 2. And Mozart was the one who started doing this, that most things are actually in bar form, that things that look like a period, that look like 2 similar phrases, are actually the first 2 parts of a longer form. That music goes same, different, and that's what keeps us involved. It's that rule of 3. If we do something 3 times in a row, it gets a little bit boring. If we don't do it at least twice, there's no pattern and there's nothing to follow. And so you could say that starting at measure 21, that propter quotas Deus, exaltavi illum, that happens twice, right? That's a period. The problem is, like, the key relationships don't work out. It doesn't move away from it. Both of them move away from a tonic key, and neither of them get us back there. Right, which is supposed to be part of a period. Either they're parallel, they sort of both stay in the same key, or we go to off to the dominant and come back to the tonic or whatever. There is no closure at the end of that period. Instead, he moves on to a new idea, et dedi illi nomen, and then he does that one twice, and that one also doesn't resolve. And then he moves on to his quod est super. And then that one happens multiple times. Right? So instead of me thinking of this as a bunch of periods, I think we have the propter quod, and then a propter quod, and then we have like the rest of the piece. And the rest of the piece is an et dedi illi nomen, and then another dedi illi nomen, and then a lot of quod est supers, and those, like, that this piece is constantly unfolding like this. And that's why it feels like it has so much momentum. It has to be one long section because he never really tonicizes any key. And that's why I have a very hard time with, because I feel like it's like an AAB. Like that's part of the same thought. Like it's the continuation, and that's why I have a very hard time hearing that like at a different tempo. Like it breaks up some things that I think Bruckner wants to have connected. And so I think musically, if you want to slow down through the crescendo to get you there, that will work much more effectively and make this piece sound like one musical idea and hang it together. Right, so we could have editi ili nomen, editi ili nomen, codesu, per codesu radiare, per ya da di da 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 pam pam. And maybe that's the end, but it's not. Then it somehow manages to keep going. But like somehow Bruckner like manages to keep up that intensity for like that whole time. So I would encourage you not to change tempo on a dime there because it makes you sound like you've entered a new section, and that's not what I think Bruckner is intending. But that's just me and my score study. That's an interpretive decision on your part. But I encourage you to try. It's also the same reason they give us the mezzo forte entrance in 44, is to not give us any feeling that we're over. So we get to codesu, per If we don't do it loud, do you get how we feel like we've entered coda territory? And then we've got like 2 pages of coda, so that's not good. It's all no, like we will not descend into the depths or anything like that. So that's totally up to you, but I'm going to let you do pages 2 and some of 3 again. And if you want to try differently, you can, or just see about like connecting that. But let's get this entrance right. And then I thought you did a great job of melding almost all the time. The one place that really bugged me was 55. Amen. No. Man, you sort of gave us no, and you gave us like 3 big beats. Not a big deal. So let's start at page 2. Nice, moving up for Simon, please. I don't know if you find that musically satisfying or not, but it's just a different interpretation.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Who's next? One more.